All right, guys, this is Mr. Hayden. This is week 7. This is going to be biology. Now, I'm going to put the essential question right up there on the front. Basically, I want you to be able to classify yourself with modern technology. Obviously, you're going to have like a gene and genus and a species and all that stuff. You don't have to go too far, but I want to make sure you know how you classify yourself because actually, you're very similar to other animals in the world. You're not much, I mean, if you think about it, you're not much different than other animals. You're a mammal. There's other mammals on this planet. Every single mammal will fall into like a million families. Then you start asking questions, and it breaks down from there. And we're going to see what that looks like today. Okay, so by the way, just so you know, I was going to do something a little different, but in K-12 it seems to be down right this second. And so that's what I do. Less than 3 minutes left. I do what we still got to do. The key concepts, the key thing for it doesn't matter if it's in K-12 or not, is that organisms can be classified based on their physical properties. So, example, like whatever this is, okay, whatever this is. This right here is classified by how many legs does it have? Does it have a tail? Does it have scales? No scales? Does it have 2 eyes? Whatever it is. Like whatever it is, that's how it gets classified down to exactly what it is. These stickers. Here you go. Let me know. Yeah. All right, so basically based on physical characteristics. Next. Okay, so basically, the Luminance developed a scientific naming system they still use today. We use it called taxonomy. It is the science of naming and classifying organisms. Because, okay, if I walk up to a plant back in the day, they'd say, yeah, that plant right there, I see it. But they wanted to be able to start breaking it down by advanced tests, where it came from, what does it look like, is it hardwood, is it a softwood, what kind of branches does it have, what kind of leaves does it have? You can break it down further because of that. So we call this a white oak. And by the way, so this is going to be in Latin, and I'll be straight honest with you, I'm going to mess it up. Never took Latin in my life. Okay? So right there, white oak, that's what that's called. Everyone here would say that's a white oak. Do you agree or disagree? Yes, good answer. Woo! But this thing is actually called a Coreopsis alba. That's the name of it. Whatever. Now, check this out. I call this a white oak, but maybe this white oak is also the same thing like Ireland and Scotland. They don't call it a white oak. They call it a rubber tree, whatever they call it. It's not universal because people call different things different stuff. So what they did is they went to Latin to make it so pretty much everyone knows Latin. Everyone knows Latin, right? Yeah. It makes you sound super smart, or like you're trying to be better than other people, then you can be up. Right. So it is. All right. So this is the name in Latin right here, and that's going to be pretty universal. That's why I did it. So make sure I get that back because it's my only kind of taking life. All right. So basically, okay, it's basically a group of organisms. So a taxon is a group of organisms in that group. We are all the exact same taxon. And we also get taxed. So we're all kind of full circle right there. Okay, so the way it breaks down the naming convention is that it's typically binary. You saw the last one was like whatever it was, alpha, right? It was 2 different names. The way they do that is they use Latin words. The scientific names always written in italics or italics. That's annoying, but that's the way they write it. These are how they actually have to do it. 2 parts, which is the genus name in the front, and the species descriptor in next. So you'll also get other things like if it's like 5 makes 2. So there's just all these little names and prefixes. The top one right here, just so you know, the genus is the biggest. It's always capitalized, and then the species doesn't get the respect, I guess, but whatever. And so that's how you actually write it. And that's the naming convention. All right, next. All right, so all right, the genus includes 1 or more physical similar species. The species of the same genus are thought to be closely related, such as owls. Like an example, like I don't even know what this is. Like a Taito. Sure, we're good with that, right? Taito, whatever it is, Tito, Taito, whatever it is. This right here is going to be the big category they're in. So that's where all of those types of owls are in. Maybe they're all round-faced, or they all have, you know, their beaks are like this. Whatever it is, I don't know all of them, okay? I'm just be straight with you. I'm not a taxonomy guy. I don't know all the classifications in the world. If I did, I wouldn't be working. Okay? So that is all that, but in the elbow right here, whatever this is, that's going to be the specific species based on it. Species. And then they actually take it down further eventually, but we won't get into all that stuff. The species, just so you know, the genus is always capitalized. That's how you kind of know. It's also in the front. The next one, species descriptor, is the second part of the scientific name. Always always lowercase, follows the genus name, and is never written alone. So, for example, I can't just roll up the same guy. Look at that alpha right there. Yeah. Weird. I have to say both, the genus and the species together. Yeah. And again, a lot of the stuff you're going to see inside of detail class, so I do recommend when you still read through your stuff to make sure you take it. Okay. Learn about taxonomy. Are you excited? Woo! No, it is. That's actually a good point. That's what I thought about. Why am I talking about stuff? Yeah. But no, it's the concept of naming them based on their, like, we have 5 fingers, we have hair on our bodies, we have 2 eyes. They were categorized because of all those things. Next week when we do our lab, we're actually going to play a game. It's just a game. It's a game next week. Just so you know, it's a terrific game. We play a game. So you play a game like 4 or 5 times. 5 pieces. We play a game. So. Okay. All right. Next, please. Okay, so you can start to see right here the common names. So the roly-poly, the pill bug, snow bug, potato bug. Those are the common names for that animal. So it depends on where you're at. We call it roly-poly. Some people call it pill bug. Some people call it all this stuff. But, I mean, all these parts of the world, all these things, different things. But the genus is the Armadillium. Makes sense. What's an armadillo? Armadillium vulgar. So it doesn't matter where you're in the world, but Armadillium vulgar. That's my Latin sideways term right there. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about a house sparrow, which we call it that, and they also call it English sparrow in England. Not the moment. And it's called a passive domesticated. It's a completely different type of accent, but we won't go into that. But that's the name scientifically. And if you notice things, puma, P right here, lowercase. Now this one right here, mountain lion, cougar, puma. Some of those are common names. It's classified all together as a puma crocodile. I don't know what accent that was, but it's a different one. We're going to go through every accent today I can think of. Okay, this is where we go. Next. All right, guys, we're going to do this accent now. This is one I can do. I can use the whole time. I can keep it going. I think it's really sad, actually. I know someone bet me I couldn't do it the whole class when I did. And they had to do like it was fun. All right. Now this is how it's broken down. Now we're talking specifically about the last category, the genus and the species, because that's the last 2. But it assumes that if you're part of that genus, then you're part of the rest. Makes sense? Like this animal, this species here, this animal is the same all the way up. It's the same. It's assumed. So this is how they break it down. The animal kingdom is the top one. It's the kingdom. It's the animal. It's the kingdom. It's the Animalia kingdom. Everyone in this room is a part of it. The spider that's on your desk is a part of it right there. Okay, it's a spider. Relax. But then everything, the birds outside, anything that is an animal is a part of it. We're all the same. We're all the same kingdom. Then we break it down into the phylum, or the phylum, or whatever. It's going to be whatever it breaks it down. So we can look at it and say, what did they take away? Spiders. So they probably talk to get rid of the insect, and they probably use an insect, its own category, and it breaks down that way. Each time it goes from one section to another, like mammalia. This I know for a fact is warm-blooded hair. Every animal above the top does not have warm blood or hair was removed. You see that? Dolphins have hair and warm blood. They're mammals. They're actually, we consider one of our closest relatives, actually. mean, think about it. I mean, pretty close. Pretty close. They're mammalians. They're mammals. Yeah. My son, by the way, a sea lion also warm-blooded and hairy too. When I went to the beach with my son like 2 weeks ago, on that Friday we had off, and he looks over the thing, and he's like, well. So I yell at him, obviously, because it's wrong. And then he's like, okay, fish. No. So I continue to yell at him, because obviously it's wrong. And then finally someone yells, sea lion. He's all, lion, roar. And I'm all, no, obviously it's not a lion, child. I'm really hard on my 2-year-old, okay? And then finally I said, it's a sea lion. He's like, sea lion. And he wanted to follow her out to just chilling by where everyone fishes. They were just waiting for fish to fall. They're just swimming around. They got fish ready. But it's a mammal. I had to tell my son this over. I said the difference between a fish and a sea lion, son, was the fact that one's a fish and one's a mammal. He also has the opposite of capitalized, low capitalized counts of 30 and those shapes and those colors and everything. So I actually put it to a higher standard than I do because it's my son and I made him part of everything. So we go further, like example, like the order. The order is a different breakdown, probably 4 legs. That was the guess or something like that. I don't know the exact breakdown. But then you go like this is okay, we're doing dogs. Actually, the order is going to be, what is that? Carter, what is that? It's pixelated on mine.
I don't know. You noticed it on there.
The canine basically order. So these are all basically what's considered under like a canine type family, which I found interesting. Yeah. And then, sorry, carnivore order. Is that the one we're looking at? Which one's the one to there? Carnivoria. So they're the ones that need to start the carnivores of this. That's one reason why a lot of these went away, because these guys are carnivores. And then we go from this point, then we go down one more, which is the canine family. And that's where you see all basically the dog-looking stuff. And then you say further down, it is the canis, which you get rid of some of the other ones that are not canine, or specifically in that genus. And then specifically you have that exact species. The exact species is written down with the original genus, written down with its additional species name. Which I can't even read that, so it's going to be kind of cool. So, taxonomy doesn't account for molecular evidence. It's just basically what they look like next. Because realize when they started doing this stuff, they didn't do this. Like, let me pull your blood out. Let me take your DNA. Let me categorize it that way. They couldn't do any of this stuff. So they're just like this. Yep, 2 eyes. Yep, 2 eyes. No 2 eyes. Those are different. That's what they do. Like, oh, you got 3 fingers. You got 5 fingers. You got 5 fingers. You got 5. 3 finger pieces over there, and 5 fingers are all the same group. They start categorizing that way. Broad categories. So physical similarities are not always found in close relationships. Oh no! Okay, so I'm going to need you to teach the copy your mom.
Let's try. It's not Shakespeare.
All right, so genetic similarities are also, just so you know, very similar too, because of the fact that you can see genetic similarities. You can see them. Example like, hey, look at me, I have brown hair, I have whatever. We don't categorize all the way down to that, but if you and me look at each other, we're about basically the same. Okay, we're the same. We both have 5 fingers, we have all this stuff, but genetically, if you took us to look at that too, we're the same holes too. The only difference is to do the phenotype show up. Phenotype. Not actually neurobiology, don't you know that? Phenotype comes up. For example, like you and me both have genes inside our body, and inside our body is whatever gets expressed, or the phenotype. You have darker skin than me. I actually have darker skin phenotype a little bit in the Indian background in my family, but it didn't show on me. So therefore, my genes may have it, which means we have the same gene, but mine is expressed differently. So when you talk about it in generality, we're the same. We're literally classified identically to each other. Next. Stop me. It's wrong. Don't pay attention. Next. And so, by the way, it's also based on this, what they call microevolutionary relationship. So anytime you start seeing things like that, what you do is you're going to almost like ask a question right here or make a statement and separate them based on that. So an example like this is everyone here. So this would be like all mammalia or whatever, like all mammals. Then I start saying right here, like all mammals. It's like it'll be a question, like I don't know, come with a question and some animals are different from each other. No, not gender, but more physical characteristics other than gender.
2 legs, 1 leg.
2 legs, 4 legs. Whether we all have 4 legs. We'll have 4 legs. How about standing, no standing? How about that one? Because we all technically have 4 limbs. That's how we go. Which is we all have 15 unless the guy. But in general, we stand. We walk on our 2 feet. So what we do is right here you put erect or walk on 2 feet. Then you usually separate bears, dogs, everything this way. Like everything that doesn't match that would go up to category A, so you continue. And your next question would be, okay, so what are some animals that do walk on 2 legs? Bears? No?
Kangaroo.
Okay, kangaroo is a good one. And your family. This wasn't a kangaroo. Okay, this is
Well, I
all right?
was just watching this.
Gorilla. Yeah, all this. Gorilla, chimpanzee, kangaroo, whatever it is. So you can get in here and go, okay, cool. Whatever it is, and you can separate okay, who doesn't, or everyone that doesn't have a pocket. Boom. Kangaroos go away. You move forward. You just keep asking questions that separate them further and further and further. So you can't separate them really. Then we're the same species. Next. So common ancestry. So okay. What if the animals to the right? I don't think it exists anymore. Because if I saw a cat that looks like a pig in the front with armor, I figured he would fight. I mean, I don't know. So I'm assuming that the one to the right is going to be. I assume the one to the right is obviously the ancestor or what died off, and this one to the left is what lives here today. Obviously, a common ancestry, so it's also kind of classified that way too. Woolly mammoths and what are they called? Elephants. Hey, I don't know everything. My brain's working weird. I need caffeine in it. Next. Okay, same thing. We've been talking about animals, but really you can plan it the same way. And actually, when we do the lab next week, even though we're going to play a game, you'll get the idea from the game, we're actually going to be categorizing plants. Okay, so just be prepared for that. It's actually not that bad. So when you do this, is you look at, for example, broad category of plants, all the way down to, say, ferns, conifers, whatever. It's all broken down. Next. We start skipping through some of the stuff now. Next. You can see it again here. As you make your way up, you can start to see the questions or the characteristics. 4 limbs with digits. Next. An embryo protected by embryonic fluid. Next. And just mix all the way itself up, all right? So it's the different categories separated based on what the information is next. Let's do it again. Next. Looks to me like, okay, so now looking at DNA. This is the old category of how it was separated by the way it looked, and now they've taken some of the species and recategorized them based on their species. So now you can see that mollusks have changed from where they're considered to. And as you can see the worms and all those, it's just been recategorized more specifically. If I just look at it, I don't really know what's going on. I'm just looking at it. It is good enough for a long time. Because, hey, do I really care that it's between a segmented worm and a flatworm? Do I care? I mean, I would care less. You guys probably do if they weren't step on. Okay? But other people do. They actually want to break it down, so they actually start doing it actually scientifically, molecularly at that point now. Next. Okay, this is just talking about how it could have taken place many years ago based on genotypes, based on the fact of how the DNA actually was made up, and how probably a mutation right here occurred. We can see several mutations have taken place. For example, this is the original one to the left is the DNA, and if you look at the top, The T was a mutation, it showed up. And then also the G down here was also a mutation that showed up, and that probably changed the phenotype. Maybe you could start growing more hair, or maybe you start growing a shell, whatever those particular mutations were. Those are then when we talked about like dominant, those are like, oh my gosh, dude, they got like a shell on them. That's kind of cool. I don't have maybe that guy. And then have a whole bunch of babies that have shells, and you start seeing a shift, a complete shift in the population over time of non-shells to shells, and that's a complete change in species, but they still came from the same ancestors. There's someone with without shells, one with shells, the same thing. It's just different over time, so they do develop into different species eventually. And that's where you see the mutations over a long period of time and show completely different nests. Oh. Trying. Next. I mean, this is where the concept of like the whole idea of macroevolution that we came from monkeys and all that stuff is because if you start following lineage of sexuality back, all the way back, like you start following out like our mutations and all that stuff all the way back, they believe it came from me. It's whatever, you know, whatever the belief of yourself. Okay, that's what we get into, that's what some science teachers really want to talk about. Is because I don't really care, it's your belief. I'm teaching you what the book says, there's also the other one, creationism, whatever you want to do. You know, if you believe in one, it's fine. If you believe in both, there's actually a thing for believing in both, and you can believe in both. Whatever yours is. This is what the scientists came up with based on various DNA components. You believe it or not, it's all it's human. Now this is just talking about basically offspring. We already know. Go next. 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 Okay, basically it shows that up until 1866, only 2 kingdoms of Amelia and Plankton were there. Next. But now we've added single-celled organisms, because before that, they didn't know they were there. How many single-celled organisms do you have in the paper right now?
Alive.
But you don't know that. If you were never told that, you'd be like, I don't see anything. Like you're silly. But there is. There's single-celled organisms everywhere until you start actually looking at the microscope. And they had those first, probably around 1866-ish, if I was to guess at it. And so new things started bringing up. So Pratista, next. Okay. Monura is another one. You need to add that next. Fungi became its own kingdom in 1959 because I think they realized plants, it's obviously not an animal, it's obviously not a organism, it's obviously not all these things, but if you actually think of fungi, it's not a plant. Plants need sunlight and water to live. Fungi do not need sunlight to live. Actually, most mushroom farms are actually in the dark. You didn't know that or not. Survival thing. If you ever have to survive and you don't have any plants all start dying, start growing mushrooms, the ones you can eat, inside of your house. And you can survive because you still get your nutrients. Okay. What is that? Bacteria? Again, we couldn't even see that until it showed up. We have to be able to see it to know it's there. Next. Okay. So you can see how that breaks down a little further there. We're not going to get completely into that, but you can see how that breaks down. There's more also looking at the DNA of those and specifically pointing out the characteristics that change. Next. So it looks right here that it looks like that bacteria includes the prokaryotes inside the animal, inside the kingdom of bacteria. One of the largest groups, obviously, we all know there's bacteria everywhere. Within that particular group, they're classified by shape, need for oxygen, and diseases caused. So you know that. I mean, that's how they break that further down from that domain. Next. Again, there you go. Next one. It's really, you guys can use if you want, but it's not really. Next. 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 See how it is pointing out the different pictures on the right and hooking up to the different kingdoms. Can we go back? Or did you see them? Okay. So obviously to the right there, that's an animal. So the kingdom of Amelia. Next. Next. Oh, we're done. Okay, so the people on the internet, what I want you to do is I want you to do some lookup of basically how you categorize a human. If you want to, you can start from the kingdom and go all the way down to species. That would be awesome because obviously we're Homo sapiens. Uppercase H, O-M-O, and then sapiens is lowercase. That is our species. But there's other ones like Homo erectus that were alive. There's also Neanderthals and all these things that were different species that went away because we were chronically killed them, but they were smart. All right, so guys on the internet, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and turn it into the Dropbox this week for credit.